Hello, this is Zay from Union Arena HQ, the headquarters for everything Union Arena. And I'm here with
Chris.
Chris. We're at the 2025 Orlando Bandai Card Fest. What did you do?
I got fifth at the Saturday tournament, the 256 tournament for Union Arena. Yeah, I got fifth in that.
So Chris, let's get into the deck profile.
Yeah. I played blue Sukuna. It's mainly just a Sukuna thing. I just really enjoy Sukuna. It's a lot of fun. Going into the zeros, so we'll do it this way for you guys. We have what I call Hack Guy, because I honestly don't know how to say his name. You know, 2K0, really good draw trigger. We have Nobara, also at a 4 of. Simple, again, draw trigger, draw one, trash one, really good for finding those fingers. We have the Yujis as well at a 4 of, because that is our raid fodder. We definitely want to see that card and everything. Lastly, I do have 2 more zeros, the Nanami, so I'm running a lot of zeros in my deck, 14 zeros, just so I don't brick out, I don't have any chance. I always see a 0, because worst thing is like playing the game and not being able to play the game, not seeing those zeros, you know? To help with consistency, I also have the Gojo 2-1, where you standing gains an extra energy, so that way I only need to see 2 zeros and a Gojo to get to my 3 or get to my 4, stuff like that. Because after that, we have some more of the bigger bodies in the deck.
So you really like that ratio of playing the 14
Yeah.
zeros and then the 2 double energies?
With 14 zeros, yeah, even if I see 1 0, I typically don't even mulligan just because it's so consistent with finding them. What happened in Donovan? But yeah, 14 zeros. I just think I felt, where'd it go? I felt like it was really good, you know? Oh, there he is.
Found him.
Yeah. So I did a lot of testing. I went, you know, here like this, had 2 hack guys, but having that draw trigger is also really important just because it just helps you find those fingers and helps you progress in the game and get a little bit further. It's a really good trigger. Draw trigger is probably one of the best triggers for blue Sukuna, I would say. Just finding the fingers, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? And this is a given. So I teched it in and I was like, this feels really nice, you know, like having all those zeros so I don't brick out early. It also helps my chances to get to 2 and then get to 3, which is my next curve for, you know, for summoning, which is the 3 cost.
Now, definitely very interesting playing a high count of zeros.
Yeah.
And you're going into now a Nobara. So you played Nobara. Active trigger, 3 drop, 2 energy. Yeah. Why did you choose to run this card?
I needed more because of later in my deck, you'll see we have some tech where I needed more 2 energy generation, an active trigger, amazing trigger, of course. And I felt like I did have this at 4, it was just a little too much. Adding the Gojo in kind of reduced this down by 1. And just having that active trigger, a 3K, it just worked really, really well with the deck. I really enjoyed it. Because, I mean, of course, we also run the Yujis as well at a 4 of. So, him being our main, but he's also raid fodder. So, I need another 2 energy generation with the Gojo and Nobara that I don't have to raid on ever, to always be at the consistent. So I could push him up and use him as further play instead of having to worry about my energy line. You know, I could just set it up in the back and get set up.
And it was better than having the Gojos, as it gave you a higher attack monster maybe, and then an active trigger?
And it has a trigger. You know, there's only 4 non-triggers in the deck. So, you know, having that as a trigger just helps a lot because active trigger can save games.
Yes,
it can really save you from a life. It could do a lot. Just having a 1/5 turns it into a 4/5, you know, so it does a lot for saving games, and I just really enjoy active triggers. So, of course, both of these are both active triggers, so, you know, the more the merrier.
That definitely gives you advantage because most people don't play that, so they only have a maximum of 4 active triggers with the UGs.
Yeah.
So that's very good. Glad to see some innovation.
Yeah. I took the meta decks and I really wanted to try to make it my own. You know, I tried the whole Nanami build and stuff like that, and I tried all of that, and I felt like what I settled on with this deck was really good. Of course, we still run the 4 fingers, 4 specials, and 4 finals. This is, I mean, if you're running blue Sukuna, every deck's gonna run this.
Standard.
I thought about cutting down a final.
Oh no.
To make more room for that. I've done that in the past with other decks, but I just didn't like the way it felt. I didn't really need it, stuff like that.
Yeah. This deck has a lot of power plays and a lot of like tempo cards.
Yeah.
So it's one of the strongest decks that when you're extending those turns, you really feel that impact of being able to maybe raid a UG, play an extra Sukuna.
Yeah.
So having that domain is really powerful.
Yeah, I did have moments in the tournament where domain really helped me progress because I wanted to build up a certain energy line or something like that before I started pushing and really making big plays. So getting that final sometimes really helps too. I only run actually one shrine as well. Due to all the draw triggers we have with the Hat Guy and Nobara and just drawing naturally, I typically do find it. So it's not too big of an issue. If I don't find it, that's okay because this deck is built to where if we don't get the fingers and we don't get the shrine, it's fine. I'm gonna do fine.
So how many games, if any, did you win with one or less fingers? And how many times did you use a finger to hit off life?
I've never used a finger to hit life. Even not seeing a Yuji to be able to get the draw, I'll typically use it Nobara to get it in the trash. I prefer to obviously get the Yuji. I feel like it's a whole lot better to get it off a Yuji draw because, like I said, getting more cards in your hand is always better than just trashing it from a Nobara. But I've never just tried to get it from life. I feel like that's very risky. You never know what's going to happen in the game if you do it early. Especially since you don't get to trigger that. If it's a great trigger, like a special or something like that, that could ruin the rest of your game. So I don't take that risk typically, and I just don't see a need to. As far as how many games did I win without any fingers, I'm pretty sure about 3, because the other half of my deck really performed really well, and I've been testing a lot with it, and I really enjoyed how it performed.
Definitely, it's definitely. Seem to go well for you, especially some people think maybe the deck can't perform as well without seeing shrine or without seeing fingers.
Yeah.
So being very dependent, and
Yeah.
you seem like you found a way to still progress. So we're like, hey, if I have my shrine, if I have my fingers, I'm really doing everything I want to do.
Yeah.
And if not, I have plan A and plan B.
So you cannot stop a Sukuna deck that has 3 fingers and a shrine. It's so hard. So I wanted a way to find the deck that if I don't see 3 fingers, or if I don't see 2 fingers, or if I don't see shrine, how do I still win? You know, because I don't want to be reliant on a luck factor like that, because they could be the top or the bottom 3 in my life or something like that. I'll never see them no matter how much I draw. And I just wanted to find a way around that. So we're going into the raids. Of course, we have 4 of the Bounce Yuji. Great card. Of course, bouncing a 4K kind of really stunts the enemy from, you know, making big plays on the next turn, especially with decks like Rush Renji and stuff like that. You know, they summon a 4K to the front, I'm just going to bounce it. You got 0 value. Now you're paying 2 AP for the 4K, and it's a really good card. I really love the Bounce Yuji. The Sukuna, of course, the 4 of at the starter deck. Sukuna, it's, you know, speaks for itself. It's Sukuna, amazing with the shrine and the fingers. It does what it does, you know.
Did you ever raid it in the back at all?
I raid these 2 in the back all the time. Just because of my situation, I'll typically build up a bunch of 4s, and then I'll bounce something and just still get the bounce, and then I'll use this to finish out the game the next turn or something like that. One of my other raids that I actually don't use as a raid is Nanami. I know I do run only 2 0-1 Nanamis. That's simply just for my zeros and to get triggers and stuff like that. But I have 3 of these, and I use them if I'm really ahead for a raid, or if I'm close to that 15. We do have a lot of draw triggers and stuff like that. Typically, I'm not around that range. I just use them as a 4K vanilla in my deck.
And you liked having kind of like that, similar to Renji Rush, being able to play it as a raidless card to get extra 4Ks on board, rather than playing something like a Jujutsu High or anything that can like draw you something, or bumping up something else. So far, I don't think we have seen a Maki. So you prefer?
That is a unique thing about my deck. I don't run any Makis. It doesn't have a trigger. I feel like if you draw the top 2 and it's 2 things you really need to see, you have to trash one of them, and that's just really bad for your game progression, you know. the last card, my sauce in the deck, is the blue Toudou here. Of course, this single-handedly won me at least 3 of the matches.
Blue Toudou.
Blue
so
Toudou.
a lot of people don't know what this does. So can you let us know what this does? Its stats, its trigger.
Yeah. So it's a 4K body. It's 5/1 cost. That's why I run so many of the 2 energy generations. We got the Gojos, we got the Nobars, we got the Yujis. So I'm able to easily get it out there. When attacking, I get to switch any of my cards from the front line to the back line. So as you said earlier, you asked if I raid anything to the back line, and yes I do. That's because I'll have 4 4Ks, whether my Nanami or something like that, in the front line with Toudou. I'll swing a 4K, and I'll swing Toudou, and I get to actually switch these two and then swing another 4K. So I get to protect. I also get to do the opposite. Say I have Shrine and some 3 fingers, so I'll swing the fingers first, they'll take the life probably, and then I'll protect the Sukuna, because I normally target it a lot with specials and stuff like that. I'll protect the Sukuna with the attacking ability of Toudou when I attack with him and get to save my Sukuna. So that way if they KO the Toudou, which is a big threat because we're getting 5 swings in every time he swings. Even if it's a 3K body, even if it's a 1/5 body, it doesn't matter because that 5th swing is what's going to get me that
It's
life.
breaking game mechanics. You basically have 5 cards in the front line, right? Extra attackers.
And be able to hide the Sukuna in the back when I have Shrine and stuff like that just adds a whole nother layer that like just helps me win games a whole lot easier. I did have him at 4. I felt like it was just a little too bricky. Adding in another 2 energy generation really helped out a lot. But Toudou is a beast. People are sleeping on the Toudou. I know a lot of decks don't run it, but he's also got an active trigger, which, as again, an active trigger is a really, really good trigger. So being able to be an active trigger, it's a 4K body, I get that 5th swing in. It also allows a situation to where if you're staring down a Sukuna, even if I have 2 fingers, right, he has impact, and I have a Toudou, you have to think about, do I special the Toudou? Do I special the Sukuna? So that gives a level of thinking to my opponent. The more my opponent has to think, the better it is for me, because they can misplay. They could target the Sukuna, but little do they know I have 2 more in my hand, thinking it's the best card to get rid of opposed to the Toudou. They could target the Toudou, then I get to impact with the Sukuna. So adding that extra layer of thinking on my opponent just really, really helps out, you know?
No, that's amazing insights. And wait a minute. Is there no color trigger in your deck?
There is no color triggers. I felt that the Yuji color trigger can be a little bricky. It doesn't do a lot, except for in the early game. The 3/5, if I flood the front line, you know, people tend to flood the front line with 4Ks, so it's not really doing anything for me. It costs 2 energy, so I don't really like it. As far as the Nanami color trigger, I teched in the 4/2 color trigger for that a little bit because it draws you 3 cards if you get rid of 7 from your trash. So the Nanami color trigger I teched in, but again, just being that 2 AP can be just sometimes a little too much. I'd rather summon like 2 4Ks out of vanilla opposed to get that. The color trigger is only really important if you get off those first few lives. Past that, you know, bouncing a 3/5, I just didn't put a lot of value in, and I felt like flushing out other parts of my deck was more important. You know, it's another 4K or something like that, or a 3/5. It just felt like it just wasn't that great.
Interesting. This is one of my favorite lists that I've seen. I guess to kind of start to wind down and close out, you played 10 active triggers with the Toudou. I'm curious about how your tournament went. Did you play any mirror matches? What did you play? Was there anything interesting that you would kind of say to someone looking to start playing blue and trying out your list?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is knowing your matchups in any deck or match. I did have a couple mirrors and stuff like that, and the great thing is the Toudou surprises everybody. I start switching things and they're like, wait, there's another attack and stuff like that, and it being like an active trigger. But I played 3 Sukunas, a couple Collins. Collins probably the hardest matchup just because of all the, you know, guaranteed impact and the force block. It's pretty hard trying to get past that, but having that 5th swing is really good for the Toudou. So the mirror match is okay. A lot of people tech in the 5/1 Sukuna for the mirror match. So a lot of people like that, I know, to get that resting power. But I feel like, you know, Toudou just does a little bit more power and stuff like that.
So you wouldn't change the Sukuna for the Toudou?
No. Toudou is staying for life. Yeah, I love Toudou, and it helped me like win 3 matches, like I said, just from having him. I didn't even have any shrines, or I maybe had 1 finger, and just having that 5th swing. So the amazing combo is you have Toudou established in the back line, and then I'll raid Yuji. That's 5 swings that I'll have, and I bounced 1 of your things, which means you only have 3 blockers. So I'm guaranteeing 2 life. If I have a special or another bounce, I'm guaranteeing another life and another life, you know? It just kind of compounds itself, having the Toudou getting that extra swing. So every time I remove something, you gotta think of that's 2 life guaranteed. You know, it's pretty insane. I love it. I love Toudou.
Amazing. Well, you heard it here first. Toudou is here to stay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Union Arena HQ, signing out.